Hello. I just finished reading a book and I'm very excited to talk about it. Yeah, let's do this. Mm. Okay. So, I picked up a copy of, while I was down at the bookstore, turning in my 30 culled copies of books, and then I ended up getting, I think, about 30 more probably. But while I was there, one of the books that I got was this book called Between a Rock and a Hard Place. And the funny thing about books like this is, like, look at it. Like, clearly you can see exactly what happened, right? And I'm thinking, I know I'm gonna enjoy it, but I'm also thinking, like, I already know how it ends. Clearly you survive, and clearly you lose your arm. But I'm so glad that I got this book. It was fascinating. It was a really good read. Aaron Ralston is an excellent wordsmith. He is a really excellent storyteller. I was just engrossed the whole time, almost the whole time. There's a section towards the end when he's starting to be rescued, and he starts like giving all the details about what other people were doing to rescue him and find him. I kind of did a bit of skimming there. I'm a skimmer, I admit it. But this book, though, um, like, okay, for real, this guy goes hiking in a canyon by himself, doesn't tell anybody where he's going or what he's planning on doing. I do this all the time. I go hiking all the time. Do not tell people where I'm going or what I'm doing. Most of the places I hike, I don't even know how I would tell anyone where it is. Like, it's just, oh, if you go a little ways down the road, there's this little clearing. I don't know. I mean, they'd see my car, I'd assume. Anyway, so I don't even really do that. But, I mean, that's rule number one about hiking that you're supposed to do, right? And he doesn't, okay, so he doesn't do that. Then he ends up, like, completely improbable, but he ends up getting pinned. His arm gets pinned by a falling boulder. Like, what are the odds? Like, just so phenomenally against it. And I have to say, 2 weeks ago, I was out kayaking, and my zipper on my dry suit got stuck on my sweater. And literally after 10 minutes, I was having a mental breakdown. I was like, I guess I'm just going to live in my dry suit now. This is just my new fashion. I won't ever be able to bathe or change my clothes. Like, it was ridiculous, but I was literally having a mental breakdown because I wasn't sure how I was going to get out of it. And then there's this guy who spends 6 days pinned by this boulder. He can't even sit down. Like, he's it's totally mind-blowing. He tells a lot of other adventure stories woven in, you know, like when you're thinking, because when you're stuck for 6 days, I'm sure you have a lot to think about, including how did I end up here? And in trying to explain kind of how he did end up there, he talks about all of his adventure stories and things like that from, you know, throughout his life. So he kind of weaves them into the story. I love stuff like that. Being someone who spends a lot of her time outdoors, I love a book about the outdoors. So I really, really enjoyed that part of it. I forget now how I wound up on that tangent. But yeah, he does such a good job of just the way he uses language. Like, you don't really expect someone who, you know, is an outdoorsman to have such a gift for language, but he really, really does. I actually learned a new word from him. I had to look it up. It was fascinating. The word is pronounced Thanic, I believe. Thanic. But it's spelled CHTHONIC. I did not look into the origins because I was in a hurry to get back into the book. But I did look up the word, and it just means belonging to or inhabiting the underworld. So that's my word of the day that I learned from this intelligent, adventurous person. Yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was such a brilliant way to spend a few days. there's some real gems in here. And then there's just moments too where you just realize like you've come across someone who is like you, and if maybe the world wasn't so big or whatever, and your paths had crossed, like you would be like, hey, I recognize you as someone like me. I mean, he's not, clearly he's not. I say that because I mean I love reading books like this, like survival stories, man against nature kind of stuff, because I like learning how people have survived things. I think it's valuable. But I mean, like I said, I do spend a lot of my time outside, and so I just enjoy reading about other people who have other adventures to share. But like I got to the end of this, throughout the book, there were times I was just like, oh my God, this guy's an idiot. And then I have to remind myself, like, I have a good 20 years on him. I think he and I are actually about the same age, and it's just, this book is really old. This happened, I believe this happened in 2003. It happened in 2003. He wrote the book in 2004. So, I mean, it was like 15 years ago, right? He was 27, and I'm sure when I was 27, I was an idiot too, and I did all kinds of idiot things. And I think it's really brave of him to admit all of the stupid things that he did. Like, throughout the book, there's just stuff like, he has an encounter with a bear, and I'm reading this chapter about this bear. This bear is stalking him, and I'm reading the chapter, and I'm just thinking, kind of an idiot, like, do you know nothing about bear safety? And then it gets to the end of the chapter, and he's like telling the ranger about it, and it becomes very evident that no, he actually knows nothing about bear safety. So if you do go back and read this book, do not do what he does in the chapter about the bear, because like, no, it's all wrong. So anyway, and there's times like that when I'm reading the book and I'm just like screaming at the book, you're an idiot, what are you doing? But I mean, that being said, I got to the end, and there's no way I could have done what he did. I just know that. Like, if this had happened to me, I'd just be dead. I'd just be like, well, I guess I live here now until I don't, because, oh my goodness. So, really, really awesome book. I really enjoyed it. Back to the part about my ADD is showing. Back to the part about, when you think you're reading and you think, oh, like if you and I met, we would have conversations to have. There's this little part in here where he talks about meeting a family friend. Where is it? He talks about this family friend is going. Their family friend Betty Dar from Ohio was with us. She was the most well-read person I'd ever known, and her passion for reading was surpassed only by her love for the outdoors. Two qualities that make for an excellent traveling companion. And I was like, he knows, right? So, and if you are someone who also loves to read and loves to travel, then you know quality traveling companions, right? I really liked the conclusion that he comes to at the very end when he says, it's affirmed my belief that our purpose as spiritual beings is to follow our bliss, seek our passions, and live our lives as inspirations to each other. Everything else flows from that. When we find inspiration, we need to take action for ourselves and for our communities, even if it means making a hard choice or cutting out something and leaving it in your past. I was just like, oh, those are the words I needed to hear right now. I think I'm going through a bit of a rough patch right now with other things in my life, but I was thinking about how books tend to be the one thing that flow for me. The books flow. The books will find me. I don't tend to read a lot of just out new books that everybody's talking about. I tend to go to used bookstores, and books find me, the books that I need. This book, highly recommend it. I don't regret a minute that I spent with it. And I've done a little bit of Googling. I found out they made a movie about it. There's a documentary about it as well. I'll link to those in the show notes as well, just to have them. Loved this book. I would definitely I'm gonna give it 4.5 cups of tea, which is saying a lot, I think. Yeah, because really the only challenge for me was just those sections about the actual rescue, like reading about who was doing what during that time. I mean, it's pertinent to the story and it's very relevant, and that's why I didn't really discount too much. But I did do some skimming. That's the only reason that I didn't give it 5, because I loved it. I thought that it was great. That's all I've got to say for now.